Okay, guys, next thing that we're going to do is we're going to start looking at our controls and setting up some custom attributes in our channel box and just cleaning up all the attributes so we have only what we need to work with and everything is real simplified. So I'm going to start out with just our God control here. So now this is going to be something that we use to move the character around in all directions, and also maybe if we want him to do a backflip, you might need this to rotate, but we will not need to scale it or to change the visibility. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select all these, and then I'm going to right click and come down where it says lock and hide selected, and then that will just take those out of my channel box. And then we're only left with the channels that we might actually need to use. And that cleans up that one control for us a little bit. So next I'm going to come up to, I'm going to skip over these feet because I'm going to come back to those in a minute. But I'll look at these pole vectors here. And we're not going to probably want to rotate these or scale them, just move them in the translates. So I'm just going to select all these and then lock and hide those. Same thing on the other side. And it looks like I forgot to freeze my transforms. Look at that. I'm always forgetting to freeze my transforms. Hopefully I can right now and it will work. Let's see. Yeah. All right. And hopefully that doesn't mess up anything later. It's really important to do this, and it is something that's really easy to forget. There we go. Now then, with this, again, I'm not going to need any of that stuff. Same thing with these pole vector controls up here. I'm really only going to use the translates for my pole vectors. I'm going to hide everything else and lock them so they won't get in the way. Right. Then with my center of gravity control, that we might need to rotate it, and we are probably going to need to translate it, but we won't need scale or visibility. This hip rotation, we really only need the rotates. So I'm going to hide the scale and the visibility and also the translates. With all of these back controls, those are really only ever going to rotate. So we're not going to translate those or do anything with the scale. So I'm just going to start from here and just get rid of all that stuff. Get it out of the way. And then I'm just going to go along to each one so that you only have rotates left in your channel box on your back controllers. Yeah. And this is just going to make it easier and cleaner to work with. It's going to make it easier for someone else to work with your rig if you're going to hand it off. It's just going to be better because you know that you'll never need these. So why have them in here cluttering up and taking up space in your channel box? So we're just going to get rid of that stuff. I go all the way up to the top of our back chain here. And our neck controllers as well. Just going along, locking and hiding the channels in the channel box that we don't need. And then here's the last one. Right, so that takes care of our back. Let me just double check. Looks like we just have rotates for all these. And that's what we want. Okay. So, and then with the shoulders, those only need to be rotating as well. We're not going to really scale or translate that. So we'll just save the rotates for that too. And then with the wrist, that really probably is only going to need to be rotated because any kind of bending is going to happen probably in the hand. So that probably is going to only ever be translated. So we'll just get rid of everything except the translates there. And then the hands, we might need the translates and the rotates. And then we'll get rid of the scale and the visibility. And then on the feet as well. And it's just get rid of, because we might need to translate or rotate it in any way, but we won't need the scale or the visibility. So we'll get rid of those. All right, so now we've sort of cleaned up all the clutter on our controls. Now we need to make some new controls. We're going to make a foot roll for the foot, and we're going to make finger rolls for the hands. And that's a way that you can roll your foot up on top of the ball, and also to curl your hands up into a fist. So we're going to start out, and we're just going to go right here on our left foot. And what I'll do is I'll come up here to modify, add attribute, and then it's going to be called foot roll. So that's just going to be the name of it. So you're going to type foot roll where it says long name. So, and then we can set up our numeric attributes. Leave everything else how it is. It needs to be keyable. It needs to be a floating attribute. Scalar is fine. So our minimum is going to be when we have rocked the foot back onto its heel. That's going to be our minimum on our foot roll. So that's going to be a -5. So we're going to roll backwards back to 5 up on our heel. The maximum is when we're going to be all the way up on our toe on the front. We're going to set that to 10. And then default is going to be when our foot is not rolled at all. It's just flat, just like it is right now. So that's going to be sort of our settings that we're going to use. So I'm going to say OK. And now you can see we've got a foot roll right there as well. I'll just do the same thing on the other side. Go down to add attribute. It's going to be called foot roll. Minimum is going to be -5, maximum 10, and the default is 0. And now we've got a foot roll there as well. So that's our custom attributes for our feet. Now up here on the hand is going to be a little more sort of tedious because what we need to do is we need to do one for each finger. So I'm going to go up to modify, and I'm just going to tear this off right now so we could just keep getting to it. So, and I'm just going to start with the thumb. I have my hand selected. I'm going to add an attribute. It's going to be called the thumb roll. And then I think our minimum and maximums, we can just do -10 for the minimum. That's going to be bending the fingers back. That's not going to go very far, but we'll just set it at -10. Positive will be positive 10. That's when the fist will be all the way closed. And say OK. So we've got a thumb roll, and now we have to do one for the index finger. So let me find, there it is, add attribute. I'm going to call this index roll. Set it up the same way, -10, +10, and 0. And then next is going to be our middle finger roll. So there's my add attributes. -10, +10, and Okay, and really you can put whatever numbers you want in there. I'm just using ones that are easy to remember. So next is going to be our ring finger roll. And you can see him sort of building up right there. And then the pinky roll. And then we got minimum and maximum. All right, so those are going to be all the different new attributes that you create for your hand. So now you're going to do the same thing on the other side. And I'm just going to pause the video and do that so you don't have to watch it all the way through again. So I will just be right back here in a second. All right, so now we've got our thumb roll, index roll, middle roll, ring roll, and pinky roll all on this hand as well. And really, with these adding attributes and setting them up, you can really do this for anything you want. I've made custom attributes on blooming flowers and everything. You can really just, it's really, really versatile. You can add any kind of extra attributes that you want to for anything that you're doing. So now we have those put in there. Now we need to set them up so that they will work. And this is going to be using what's called set-driven keys, or sometimes you'll hear it called SDKs. And this is a little bit of a tricky process. It's something that you might have to do more than once to get it right. But I'm going to just show you how it works. So we're going to be in, I believe it's in animation. Under key, we're going to come down where it says set driven key set. And that's going to open this window. So what we're going to do is we are going to have, because there's a driver and a driven. So what happens with set driven keys is you can set it up so that one of your attributes, when you change that, that will change the properties of other objects in your scene. So it connects an attribute to different objects, and then you can create animation that way. So our foot control is going to be our driver. So let me go ahead and load the foot control in here so you can see our foot roll here at the top. So this is the attribute that we are going to connect to some of our parts of our foot group. And that's how we're going to make our foot roll work. So let's go ahead and in my outliner, I'm just going to get down to where my left foot group is, and I'm going to open that up. And what I need here is I need the ankle group and the heel pivot and the toe pivot. Those are going to be my driven objects. So I'm going to click load driven right there. And I'm going to be changing the rotate X. So the rotate X of all of these is what's going to change when I change this foot roll attribute after we get this set up. So let me just go ahead and select the rotate X. And do you see how this key button turned on? So if I have my foot control with my foot roll set to 0, which we do, if I select my foot control, you can see it's set to 0. And then all of these are set to 0 because I haven't changed anything yet. If I hit key right here, then we've established our default position. This is, if we set this foot roll back to 0 at any point now, it's going to come back to this flat position right here. So that's our first sort of set-driven key that we've created. So now we're going to do the heel. I'm going to get my foot roll, going to put in a -5. And then I'm going to just select the heel pivot right here. And then this heel pivot in the rotate X, I'm going to put in, let's say, -20. And do you see how that will rock the heel back just like that? And you can actually sort of adjust this into whatever you think looks right for your character. I'm going to use 20. I think I'm pretty happy with that. So if you've got this set to 20, you've got your foot roll set to -5, you have everything selected in your set driven key window, click key, and now every time you put -5 in your foot control, it will rock back on its heel. So I'm just going to select it. This is my foot control right here. If I set it to 0, it goes flat. If I set it to -5, it goes back again. If I highlight the foot roll and middle mouse back and forth, you can see I've got like a stepping, little toe tapping action. So that's the first part of our foot roll. I'll go ahead and set that back to 0. So now what we need to do is roll up onto the ball of the foot. So I'm going to select my foot control, set my foot roll to 5. That's +5 this time. And then this time my ankle group is the one that I'm going to change. And I'm going to set this to 35. And you see that will roll the foot up onto the ball like that. And you can change this if you want to maybe change it to 30 and see what that looks like. It's up to you. You don't want to do it too far because then it will look like your ankle is breaking. But maybe 30 is good. Probably do 30, that's fine. So now then, you don't want to ever forget, after you've set all of this stuff up, you come over here and hit key. That's the thing that gets you every time with this set driven key, is forgetting to hit this key. Because you'll go in and make a lot of changes and move stuff around. If you forget to hit this, it all disappears as soon as you move something. So make sure to not forget to hit key. So now I'll select my foot control. I got my foot roll here. I'll roll it back and forth, and now you can see it rolls up on the ball. So now we're going to roll all the way up on the toe this time. I'm going to set my foot roll to 10. Got my foot control with my foot roll set to 10. And I'm going to just do the toe pivot this time. And on the toe pivot and the rotate X, I'm going to put in a +20. And that's just going to roll it up a little bit more, just like that. And then I'm going to hit key. And now when I select this, I am going to then see that that's happening right there. And that is my foot control mostly. There's just one more thing that I'll want to do, because it's kind of, I need to put a little bit of a delay between rolling onto the ball and then rolling onto the toe. So what I'll do is, let me just set this back to 0, to the default. And I'm going to come up here to my graph editor. And let's see. I wonder, I think it's going to be the toe pivot that I have to select. Yeah, there it is. So this is my toe pivot that I have selected in the graph editor. Just going to select this first little keyframe, and I'm just going to move this up to 5. I'm going to hold down Shift, make sure I have my move tool, and I'm just going to snap this up to 5 right there. You're just going to put it up to 5. Or you can just type a 5 right here in this little box. Anyway, that's going to move that up to where I want it to be. And now, if I select my foot group, it rolls back, it rolls up on the ball, and then after it's all the way up on the ball, then it goes all the way up to the toe. And that is your foot roll. So that's how you're going to set up your other foot roll as well. So I am just going to take a second and pause this and do the other side. And you should do the same thing. And then we will come back and we will do the finger rolls using this same window. So I will be right back in just a second. So now I have my foot rolls set up on both of my feet. So I have both of my feet selected. And then I can roll back on the heel, up on the ball, and then up on the toe. So that is your foot rolls. So now the next thing to do is we are going to have to do finger rolls up here on the fingers. So let's see. We'll select this, and we're going to kind of just do one finger at a time, I think. Actually, we're going to go ahead and let me just load this hand. That's going to be the driver. And then you have all of your rolls right there. And then for each one of these that we work on, we're just going to load the joints for that one as the driver. So right now, we'll just do the thumb. And you need to select each one of these joints. So you don't want to just select from here and get all of them. You want to select each joint because you don't want to select the chain. Does that make sense? So come in here. Might be easier to just open up the back and get to your hand. It is kind of a pain to do this, but if you select all of them like that, actually, and that's not really what we want to do either. Let me open my thumb. And so we don't want, yeah, this is what we need right there. And this is what we're looking for, where we have a lot of sort of white joints and then a green one. Okay, so this is going to be the thumb. And then actually, you know what, now I'm thinking about this. It might be easier to do the fingers first, get them in position, and then wrap the thumb around. So that's what we'll do. So we'll start out with just doing the index finger instead. So let me go ahead and close this thumb, and we'll do the index finger first. Select all these. So now, this is our default position right here. This is where we want everything to be. I'm going to load these in my driven right here. So with our hand control, with our index roll set to 0, all of these joints we want to have, and we're going to work with the rotate Z. We want those all to be set just how they are right now. So I'm going to go ahead and click key right there. That's going to set our default position. Now then, I'm going to come back up to my index roll in my hand control. And I'm going to put in a -10, because remember that was sort of our backwards number. Then I'll select all my joints again. And then with them all selected just like this, I'm going to get my rotate tool and just rotate it back just a little bit. Not too much. You want to do it a little bit more than you think you'll ever need, but that should probably be about fine. Probably something like that. And then I'm going to click key. So now I'm going to test it. I'm going to get my hand control, get my index roll, and then just roll back and forth. And you see it goes from default to back, just like that. So now then, we'll get our joints again. This time we'll set our index roll to a +10. And we'll get our joints, and we will rotate them all the way in, just like that. And you might want to turn on your geometry so you can see maybe that you're not going to like go all the way inside the hand. Maybe make sure you're leaving a little space like that. However far in you want to go, probably about that. It's probably good. And then key that again. Get your hand control and your index roll. And now that's it. You've got your finger that will sort of hyperextend and then curl up. And now you need to just do that for all the rest of your fingers. So I'll go ahead and set this back to 0. And I'll do the same thing this time for all the middle fingers. Let's just open up the middles. And right here, let me go ahead and, yeah, we're going to work with the middle roll right now. That's set to 0. We're going to work with the translate Z. These need to actually be loaded into the driven because we don't want to mess with the index ones. We've already got those how we want. So we've got our middle joints and our middle roll that we're working with here. And we're working with the rotate Z. Going to key that right where it is. Then we're going to take our hand control and change our middle roll to -10. Select all of our middle finger joints. Rotate them back just a little, just like we did before. Hit key again. Set our middle roll up to +10. And then select our joints again and rotate them into this way. Something like that. That's probably good. And key that. And now we can actually test both of them if we want. Let me get my hand control. We'll set this back to 0. And we can select both of these. And I'm noticing that they're kind of a little bit off from my geometry. Hopefully that won't be too big of a problem. Maybe I can fix that later. But they seem to be working just fine. So now you're going to do this for all the rest of your fingers on both hands. And then I'll show you how to do the thumbs after that. So I'm just going to take a second and finish off my fingers. You do the same, and then we'll come back and we'll do the thumbs. All right, so I have all the finger rolls done except for the thumbs. I have them both selected, and you can see if I select all these, you can see that they're both working on both hands, just like we want. So that way you have control, and you can set keyframes on individual fingers to make hand gestures, anything you want to do, but you've got control of those fingers now. So I'm going to set all these up to 10. Just so we have our fingers sort of curled all the way up, because now we need to do the thumbs. So let me go ahead and start back with this left hand again. So we're going to load that into the driver because we're working with the left hand. And we're going to work with the thumb roll. Let me get my joints back up here and get my left thumb. Yeah, it's going to be under here, looks like. Yeah. All of my left thumb joints. Those are going to be my driven objects. So I got my left hand with my left thumb roll, my left thumb joints in the driven. And then I think that what we are going to do is we are going to do all the rotates just to make sure that we have control over all the rotates. So then I think what we'll do is that's going to be our default position right here. This is our default, so we'll go ahead and hit key. And then for our -10, that's our little hyperextension. Select all of our thumb joints here, and we will just do a little bit of this. Maybe a little this way as well. And we'll set key there. Let's see what that looks like. So it's just a little bit of a movement there. That's all we need for this part. And you might want to make this go a little bit bigger because you've got a little bit more range of motion than that in your thumb. So I'll leave that up to you if that's what you want to do. But let's go ahead and take our thumb roll and go all the way up to 10. And then we'll select all of our joints. And then we are going to rotate these so that they kind of go over the fingers if we can. So we'll rotate like this. And then sort of down a little. And it might be that we need to move one just a little bit more than the other, or move them sort of one at a time, and just get them in position of what you feel like is okay for a closed fist. Then we'll make sure that we have them all selected, and we'll hit key. Now then, get our thumb roll and test it out. And that's what you want for a thumb. And that's our closed fist right there. So if I select all these, you can see it open and close just like that. And then we can set these all back to 0. And then our hand is back in our default position. And that is you setting up your finger rolls. So now you'll just do the same thing for the thumb on the other side, and you will be all set. You'll have all of your controls set up so that they'll be ready to use for animation. And then the last thing that we need to do is we're just going to bind our mesh to our skeleton. And then after you get that finished, you'll be done and you'll have a rigged character. So thanks, guys. Bye.